obviously next month we're gonna plan something and have something. It's usually our annual anniversary, so it'll be for our 2-year anniversary. We usually go to the beer gardens and just bring everyone, even if they're not interested in this kind of stuff. We all drink, hang out, have a good time. So we've been officially, we will have been a group at 2 years at that point. So congratulations, we've made it. So other than that, today was grassroots, which is why we're a little bit sparse compared to normal. We have a lot of newer faces, so thank you for coming. And then we have a lot of people who are returning. I'll also thank you. And we have a lot of people who are just up at grassroots today. So end of the month, we do have, I'm speaking at SecretCon as well as Braden or 8-Bit Fishy. So if anyone's going to be up at SecretCon, feel free to hit us up. That'll be up in Minnesota. A couple of us will probably be up there as well. So feel free to just, chat and we'll get something together. Next month, I don't think there's any other conferences locally that are going on that I'm aware of. Anyone have any that I'm missing?
No, but we've got IT Summit at Potawatomi September 11th.
Okay, yeah.
It's free. And we'll have figures. Last year we had the CISO from Schwab and SSML. And we have about 20 different sessions.
So yeah, let's connect after this so we can get it on the calendar. That way we have that. So that's September 11th and 12th at Potawatomi, the IT Summit. Okay, let's make sure we get that because that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
so.
sure. And like I said,
perfect.
This is good there.
Awesome. So yeah, we'll make sure we get that on the calendar. That way everyone can show up. So yeah, we've got one in September. I don't think there's anything planned for August either. So other than that, we'll get right into it. Well, yes, there is these DEF CON and Black Hat and all those fun things. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to get dragged into Black Hat again. So if you're at Black Hat, feel free to reach out to me. So without further ado, we'll hand it over to Jake and we'll get started on this. So thank you.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for doxing me. I actually didn't have my last name in any of this, so thanks for that, buddy. I need to start. Okay. In Google. Okay. Where present now. There we go, and share. All right. Folks online, hello, thank you. You can hear me? Everybody good? Awesome. My name is Jake. I am a cybersecurity analyst, but I wasn't always a cybersecurity analyst. About a year ago, I landed my first job in cybersecurity. I spent a lot of time figuring out what I needed to do to get there. And so after a year, the industry moves fast, and I thought this is probably a good time, both for DC 608 to bring in some new faces and also to sort of share. I wanted to give back a little bit and share what I learned. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna talk about today and what I'm here for. So this is the Who Am I section. All right, we're seeing it, we're good. So I do have Captain Hindsight here from South Park. I don't know if anybody's a South Park fan. But that is sort of what I was joking to myself about, is like I can finally be Captain Hindsight and have it mean something. So, geez, that is really small on my screen. So yeah, in Discord, I'm Jake Thundersnake. I am an avid D&D player. I'm fluent in Japanese, security analyst, as I said. There are a bunch of links in here, just so everybody knows. Full disclosure, I'm not being paid. I'm not an affiliate. There are no sponsorships for anything related to this. So all of these are my recommendations and what I liked. And yeah, if you see the Captain Hindsight anywhere else in this presentation after this, it's something I'm super salty about that I really wish I would have known. So it'll be later on, but those are sort of the big things that I very much wish that I had known. So just adjust my screen here for a second. What does this talk about? A little bit over a year ago, I landed my first cybersecurity gig, transitioning from a job as a lighting technician, which is a pretty random career. There are some crossovers with the IT world, and I am going to talk about that just so that you have an idea of sort of where I came from and how I sort of traversed the landscape. I probably spent about a year altogether from deciding this is something that I wanted to do, to the exploration phase, to applying myself, to studying, to getting the certs, and then to finally getting my job. So all in all, not too bad for a newbie. I read a lot of books. I watched a lot of videos, eventually got there in the end. But I spent a lot of time just figuring out what to do. I spent a lot of time figuring out what was worth my time, because that is the most precious resource we have, especially if you are a working adult, you're trying to transition careers. You want to make the best use of your time possible. And so that is really why I'm here, is I want to pass on what I learned to hopefully help you save some time and make it a little bit easier for you. There's so much information out there and so many resources, it is extremely daunting. It is paralysis analysis. Cybersecurity is very popular, which means there are a lot of people trying to make money off of it. That's not necessarily a bad thing inherently, but it is good to keep in mind when you're looking around. But there's also a lot of people trying to grab your attention and trying to grab your subscriptions and all of that stuff. I remember talking to Icarus after I sort of finally got to DC 608 post-COVID, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. But I remember we went out for lunch, and I was like, yeah, I'm thinking about getting Linux Plus, which is a fine cert to get, but I had nothing else. He's like, why? It's like, well, how is that going to get you into a security role? You know, obviously Linux is good, but why is that your first one? And I was like, yeah, it's a good question. This guy on the internet told me. It's Network Chuck, who's a great YouTube channel full of information, but there are so many people telling you so many different things. My hope is by the end of this, if you do want to try to get into cybersecurity, you'll have a template. You'll have an idea, you will have concrete steps, so you can sort of skip that exploratory phase where you're trying to figure out what to even do and get you maybe to the meat of it. Everyone comes from a different background. Everyone has different skill sets. It's hard. That was one of the things I sort of found troubling at first. You know, I have a couple books up here that I got early on. One of them was Tribe of Hackers. And the thing I learned about Tribe of Hackers was how diverse the backgrounds are of people that are in cybersecurity. And I believe that I've put enough in here so that no matter where you're from, you should be able to get something from this and follow some sort of a route to help you out. When I told my coworkers that I was going to do this talk, one of the first things one of them asked me was, so if you had one thing, if you could tell yourself one thing going back, what would it be? And it totally shocked me because I was just, you know, mentioned it offhand and I wasn't ready, and I thought about it for a long time. And so the one thing I would tell myself going back is that no matter what path you take, landing that first job is going to be the hardest thing you do. So do not get discouraged. I'm hopefully going to be able to explain a little bit of why that is when it seems like it shouldn't be. But if I could go back and tell myself one thing, it would be give yourself a little slack on that part. If you do everything that we have in here in the slide, you're going to be in a really good position to start interviewing, and it will happen, no matter what path you take. All right. So I was debating this slide, but I'm gonna do a little background and my technical sort of background so that you have an idea of where I started from in this. So in the long ago, I built computers to play StarCraft, as every young child does. I was interested, so that was sort of middle school era. The computer broke part by part, and I learned to fix it. That was back, you know, before everything was an all-in-one. You know, everything was hodgepodge, and so I learned sort of IT basics from there. Learned what RAM was, processors, graphics cards, all the stuff so I could play the games. I was interested in cryptography. In later high school, I sort of discovered that, you know, in the era that I grew up in, you know, we were using sub 7 and, you know, changing the Windows startup screens to wind blows at middle school, and we thought we were super cool. And I'm like, hey, I think internet, like security, like hacking stuff is sort of a thing. And I'm in my later 30s, and so back, you know, in the late 90s, early 2000s, it wasn't anywhere near what it is today. But I called up my cousin, who is second cousin. He's a little bit older than me. Brilliant guy. Currently works for Microsoft Research. He has a doctorate in mathematics. And at the time I called him up, and he's the only person I knew sort of in the cybersecurity space. And he's like, I'm interested in cryptography, because that was the only thing I could really find on the topic. And he's like, are you into math? And I had just dropped out of pre-cal. Couldn't do it. Wasn't for me, not a math guy. And I very vividly remember this call. And I was kind of like crestfallen about it. And that's sort of where that part of it ended. I'm like, okay, I guess there's nothing for me. And I often think about, you know, me today at that moment, if I had resources like this. And it's not necessarily regret, but hopefully I'll expose you to some good resources that you can use so you don't get stopped sort of in the same way that I did. But my interest in computers continued. I learned it was a great way to make money. I worked in the restaurant industry for a while, realized I could make twice as much fixing computers, doing half as much work. So I worked at Helen C. White at UW. You know, after I realized cybersecurity wasn't for me, I did what anybody would do, and I learned Japanese in college and then went to work for a lighting company in Japan. Super random, ended up getting that job through a company I did an IT internship for. I wasn't even doing IT anymore. It was just translation and learning lighting. Through some serendipitous events, I ended up setting up networks for theme parks. If you've ever been to a Wizarding World of Harry Potter, I probably had a hand in it. Transformers, Fast and Furious, amongst other things, Volcano Bay. I got to work on some pretty cool projects. But eventually it was time to come home, so I did the next logical thing, and I went to a cruise ship and sailed the Caribbean, just like in the days of old. And with the salt on my face and the ice rink before me, because there was an ice rink on our ship, of course, I did some more lighting stuff. And I ended up coming back to Madison eventually and working for a lighting company here. I was doing technical support on the phone, and I was so done with it. I had really felt like the things that I loved about it, the theme parks, I had my moment with that. There's no work-life balance. I was always gone, and I was like, so I took the desk job, but it wasn't what I loved anymore, and I was stuck. And that's sort of when I rediscovered cybersecurity, sort of the state that it's in these days. And so that's how I began sort of my journey. And actually, funnily enough, I'm really into security privacy right now, but it was an Instagram ad that got me in the end. So, you know, say what you want about targeted advertisements, but I literally owe my career to an Instagram ad from University of Wisconsin Engineering Department Cybersecurity Bootcamp, which I'm going to talk about in not the best light later, but props to them for their marketing campaign. We are going to talk about boot camps later, the good and the bad. I actually interviewed somebody. I had a very bad experience with boot camps. I interviewed somebody who's a success story from boot camps, who actually works at a Fortune 50 company doing digital forensics, fresh out of a boot camp. So not all bad, but just be aware. Anyway, so that's enough about me. Who is this slide for? Or this slide? Who is this presentation for? Anyone looking for a change like I was? People who love to learn. One of the things about this job, what I love so much, is that things are rarely ever the same. Things are always changing, the landscape, the adversaries, the techniques, and something that you've seen before becomes a nice little coincidence, serendipitous even. You know, love to learn, that curiosity will go beyond just learning the skills to get your first job. You need to be constantly learning every day. The other reason, obviously I talked about, I want you to be able to skip the explorational steps for learning. I want you to be able to get straight to the meat of it. And lastly, I don't think, you know, everything changes so fast. What I learned a year plus ago might not be relevant. So that's another reason why I wanted to talk now, while it was still fresh, while it was still relevant to modern day everything. All right, so anybody online, this is the presentation speed run. If you want one thing and bail, get this screenshot. This is also the agenda sort of for the meeting. As I call it, we'll talk about what we're going to talk about. So feel free to reach out to me on Discord too. If you have any questions, I'm planning on putting the slide deck up for everybody as well. There are hyperlinks in here for all of these, so don't worry if you're in person. But so here's sort of what I'm going to talk about and what I hope to. Yep. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I think the cast went down maybe. I'm gonna stop sharing really quick. Yeah. Thank you. All right, there we go. Thank you. All right. So there are 4 primary learning paths that I'm going to talk about here. I lost what? Okay, thank you. No, it's better to know. Technology. Present now. Switching it up. Sure. We good? There, we're good. Am I fired? Can I go home now?
No, the Google tag.
Okay.
You're talking about hindsight.
Captain Hindsight. Should have brought an HDMI cable, right? So there are 4 primary learning paths I'm going to talk about. Self-study, which is what I did. Going through traditional IT roles to get to cybersecurity. Boot camps and traditional school, which is the bachelor's. Certificates, ABC, always be certified. This is something that you're going to be doing no matter what path you take. For newbies, if you're starting from 0, that's okay. I have something in here that I would recommend. Doing CompTIA A+, Net+, and then Sec+, is probably the sort of industry standard. I'm also going to talk about ISC2, Certified in Cybersecurity, which is a free, really high quality cert that is available. It won't always be available. It's got a dedicated slide for that. I'm also going to recommend people to collect free certs as you fill out your resume. Focus on industry tools if you can. We're going to talk about labs, right? It's gamified these days. They're meant to be fun. They're meant to be modular, easily digestible. We're going to talk about some of the different ones there are. I'm recommending try Hack Me because I like the balance of red team, blue team, as well as some industry knowledge. Podcasts and YouTubes, really good. It's good to mix up the way that you're learning and to understand your learning style as well. Some people learn visually a lot better. Some people learn through audio a lot better. There's no right answer there. Darknet Diaries is really one of the things that, kicked me off as far as being really excited. It's fun. He's a great journalist. He is a great storyteller. And it's an awesome way to interact when you're tired of just being in front of your computer and still be learning from it. For YouTube, David Bombal is a really great resource. He has awesome interviews, really cool demos, just high quality. And just sort of, we're going to talk about how hard it is to get that first job, a little bit about why. That's not to be a Debbie Downer. It's to build resilience so that you know what you're going to encounter. And at the end, nothing I ever studied felt like it was wasted. No matter what weird, learning platform I used, no matter how red teamy it got, nothing has ever felt like it was a waste of time for what I studied from the things that I did, which is why I'm recommending them. We're good? All right. So let's talk about the different learning paths, the way that you can go from where you are, from wherever you are, into a role in cybersecurity. Think of it kind of like a choose your own adventure. The first one is self-study, which is what I did. I did not start out wanting to do this. I didn't even know what all the paths were. I didn't even know how to get there, right? The first thing that I saw was a boot camp. So that's actually where I went to first to try to do this. But it didn't work out. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Self-study is the cheapest option. It can be a total of $0 if you do it correctly. It does require a lot of discipline. Be honest with yourself. Am I the type of person that can keep myself on track? Can I hold myself accountable for all of this? Or am I going to just sort of let it slip? Which is fair, right? That's not, you shouldn't feel bad about that. People need different things. In the end, you have no formal training. You have certificates. And so those become extremely important to show your aptitude, because that's how you're going to get in front of people. Once you do, they're going to maybe ask you questions. There are technical interviews that come up. I had one at one place. I didn't have one at another, but they're going to need to know that you know something. So what we're sort of working towards in this end, in the end, is a cert like Security Plus or certified in cybersecurity. And what that does is it says, I have this base knowledge. We have agreed by these standards that I understand these concepts, and that's where you start a conversation with somebody from a place of understanding. The second option I have up here is boot camps. So I'm going to go through these, and then I'm going to take a second to sort of talk about what I encountered. It's sort of the good and the bad. 8 to 20K. These are not cheap, right? They're usually around 6 months, structured curriculum. There are two types. There are the super hardcore ones. You can go in person sometimes, where it's like cram school, 10 hours a day. I feel like normally now they're more 3 days a week-ish. There's usually 2 weekdays and then a weekend. It's meant for working adults, right? It's after, normal business hours. Usually I'd say 3, 3, 4, I think. So total of 10 hours a week. It's going to be a mile wide, an inch deep, but you are going to come out with a really good fundamental knowledge of cybersecurity. They're going to keep you on track. They're going to keep you honest. You're going to have, most of them do industry professionals. So these are not just professors that have been in lecture halls. These are people who are working in the industry, and this is their side gig. I did the intro the first month for the University of Wisconsin Engineering Department boot camp. It was great. I had a great time. The instructors were super passionate. There were technical difficulties, but the content was really good, and I felt like for what I got out of that, it was definitely worth it. This is where it sort of gets where I would like to put up little warning signs. There are a lot of financially driven platforms and institutions. I mentioned cybersecurity was sort of a hot topic. This is where I really got a bad taste in my mouth. They have super high pressure sales, super aggressive, trying to get you to sign that contract. And when you're talking about up to $20,000, this is not a small investment, right? You can go and get a master's for $20,000 at some places. But they're not all bad. All I want you to know is just be aware that they are selling a product in some situations before they're selling an education. So do your research, take your time, look around, and whatever you do, don't fall for high pressure sales. Oh, it's starting in 2 weeks. You got to do it right now. It's like, no, fuck you. It's fine. You can wait another month. Yeah, go ahead.
I see your next point is CS degree. So kind of jumping forward a little bit, if you're already enrolled in a CS degree, or if you are a college student, which I probably don't.
Yeah, no, yeah.
If you're already enrolled in the CS degree for cybersecurity, is it a good idea to do the boot camp, or?
No, I would say that the boot camp is an expedited path to the same ends, right? All of these are going to get you to the same place.
Okay.
So moving on to computer science degree, this is the most in-depth and the most time intensive. If you are in school and you're interested, this is an awesome field to go into. MATC has a program, and University of Wisconsin-Madison now is an official program, as well as the boot camp that they offer. People like degrees. Businesses like degrees, right? Like, there is nothing wrong with coming out with a specialty in cybersecurity. I think a lot of people would probably, in a vacuum, take that, all things equal, over many other things, because boot camps are relatively new. And especially managers in the field, they're more used to bachelor's degrees. People want people with degrees in fields in more traditional work settings, we'll say. I ran into this in my last place of business, yeah.
Some companies have a automatic degree requirements.
Absolutely. That's what happened in my last job. I was working at the lighting company. I was trying to transition into cybersecurity, and they couldn't do anything. They're like, you need to get a computer science degree and go back. Like, nope. No. So nothing, I know that we have several people that have gone through the MATC program. And honestly, if I could go back, I would do that. If I could go and redo, I mean, I wouldn't trade anything, right? All roads lead to here, blah, blah, blah. But at this point in my life, if I got to do a 4-year degree, I would 100% do cybersecurity. It would be awesome just to study that all the time.
So the question on the degrees for you or for others, like, have you found employers care where you get a CS degree from?
Yeah.
They do care.
They are, there's a lot of colleges who will accredited or not, and or were accredited or not anymore. So they do actually investigation on that, so you can double check. Good example, I've seen this right for BYU Idaho is not accredited as a coordinator of cybersecurity. I know plenty of people who got it, and now they're out of jobs. It's not accredited. Employers see it, and then they're steering as clear as they can. WG is an option, obviously. All of fantastic. MEC, NSO, that they're all fantastic. But yeah, there are employers that will look at that.
So accredited versus non-accredited, or just
And backtrack. So if, like in the case of BYU Idaho, they used to be accredited, they're not anymore. So they may say, well, depending on when you got it, we will accept it versus we won't accept it not now. And I have seen in the case of you got it from this college, it's not a great program, we're not going to. So there has been.
And I apologize for the folks online. I did mean to repeat questions. So the first one was, if you are currently getting a cybersecurity degree, a computer science degree, should you still do a boot camp? My response was, I don't think you need to there. You are learning similar things, maybe a little more depth from the computer science degree. And then the next question was, are all degrees equal, essentially? So do your research on institutions where you're getting a degree. It does matter to people who are hiring. They can become, they can be accredited or not. And I mean, if you get screwed and it gets taken away, that's awful, obviously. It's nobody's fault, but. All right. The last way to do it is to get a job in IT, right? You could start, transition over to help desk and work your way up. One of the cool things about where I'm currently working is we have sort of 3 different flavors. I'm self-study. One of the people, actually the person who got the job before me that I lost out on 6 months prior to getting hired, had a computer science degree. And the third person, our senior analyst, I work at a credit union, started as a bank teller. Went from bank teller to IT help desk, went from IT help desk to infrastructure, from infrastructure to cybersecurity. All of these are viable, and all of these, I think, can fit into somebody's life. And so you just need to figure out, be honest with yourself, what is going to work best for you. Sorry, didn't go through everything. So IT, a lot of places will pay you to get trained. They will pay for certs. We have somebody who just got into the desktop support group, and they're like, I'm interested in cybersecurity. If you need anything security related, let me know. We love that. So you can get real world project experience just by being in maybe a larger organization. Even a small shop is good, because in small shops, everybody's doing everything. Your infrastructure team's going to be doing security. Just shoulder surf on them when you're done. What can I do to help? Those people will be super happy to show you what they're doing. And if they're not, you're probably at the wrong place if they're trying to hide and hoard information. Move in within the org. If you get that help desk role, if you're at the point where maybe you're done with college or you're just looking for a new job, and it can be, a different industry, wherever, look for help desk. It's always a need. It's a great way just to dive into the industry. It'll also get you actual real life project experience. Sort of build those skills. But hopefully this will meet everybody's sort of situation in one way or another. Varying types of learning. So no matter what path you choose, I'm going to recommend that you do some or all of this. There are exceptions. For example, in boot camps, you often come out with your Security Plus. So they're training you to pass the certification as a part of your boot camp. So obviously, if you're doing that, you don't need to repeat that. But let's talk about certs first. Certificates in cybersecurity are milestones throughout your entire career. You will continue to ABC, always be certified. You will always be studying for that next cert. there really is no top of the mountain. It's constantly moving goalposts. Major and minor certs can be obtained. When I talk about major and minor, major milestones would be like a Security Plus or certified in cybersecurity. That's sort of what we're talking about in this scope. I won't list a bunch of random acronyms. Other than that, Pen Test Plus. We'll talk about red teamers later, people who want to do offensive security. Pen Test Plus would be sort of that same version. If you're going for Pen Test Plus, I'd recommend you get Security Plus as well. Talk about red teaming later. Minor certs would be something like Amazon cloud certifications for basic trainings, right? These things look good. I spent a lot of time filling out my resume. You know, I had some networking background, as we saw. I was doing some networky stuff for the theme parks, but I was out of IT for so long. I had to do a lot just to pad out my resume. And I did that through these minor certs that you can get. Simply Learn is one of them. Udemy is another where you can earn badges. Blue Team Labs Online, all of these different places that you're going to be interacting with anyway will get you certs, and then you can put these on to show the learning that you've done. Got to catch them all. There's a million of them. If I could go back and do it again, I think I would probably focus more on the majors, like Microsoft Learning. Microsoft is a great learning platform. You know, going up to a job and say, I've done 40 hours of Microsoft like learning through their core website would be awesome. You know, I was sort of scattered everywhere while I was discovering things. Another one is online labs. These are hands-on experience with virtualized systems. So basically, I would recommend that you have one from each of these. Home labs is not for everybody, but one sort of cert that you're looking for. At the beginning, you're going to be going towards Security Plus or certified in cybersecurity. For online labs, there are a bunch of different platforms. Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, Blue Team Labs Online, Let's Defend. Yes. Pwn Labs, there are a ton of them. They have varying levels of explanations. I went for Try Hack Me. I think that that is the best all around, and I think that they have the best, what's the right way to say it, educational platform. Some of them give you a PDF of step-by-step, this is how you hack this thing, and there are some where you can tell that actual people with education backgrounds went through, they define learning objectives, they're gonna walk you through it in maybe a gentler and smoother pace, but it's different for everybody, and it's different depending on what you're into. You know, if you're into red teaming and you really want to be this elite hacker, go to Hack the Box, right? That's where you should be. If you're not sure what you want to do, go to a place where they've got both, right? One of the other reasons why I like Try Hack Me is they have actual tools that you can use from the industry. Like you can use Metasploit, you can use Jack the Ripper. Get your hands on some tools that you may or may not be using. It's gamified, which is fun. The Venn diagram of people who enjoy video games are interested in cybersecurity is a near perfect circle. So it makes it fun. It's a different type of learning, right? You're going to be active, you're going to be engaged, and you're going to be doing something new. And then varying levels of guidance. Yep.
Would capture flags also capture flag events such as Pico, CTF?
So the question was for those online, would capture the flags fall into this? Absolutely. I would say that's maybe even a whole nother level. I remember hearing about capture the flags, and I did not know where to go. If you have a chance to do that, absolutely do it. It seems like a ton of fun, a great way to learn, and people are usually pretty welcoming. So yeah, absolutely. Capture the flags are great events to become a part of. You'll learn a lot. Next thing is videos and podcasts. It's a way to learn without being in front of a computer. We all have real lives. We have to do chores. We have to mow the lawns if we have them. We have to do laundry. And if you really want to chase this, if you really want to keep going, or if you just need a break from all of that other stuff, podcasts, YouTube videos are a great way to interact, to learn, to maybe absorb without being completely absorbed in it. I had a ton of fun. I got super inspired by the Stories in Darknet diaries. They were just so interesting. And I wasn't necessarily, I think my favorite episodes from there aren't actually related directly to cybersecurity. Like one of them was a guy who was like printing money. The stories are just so good that it will get you excited and it will re-energize you for when you do have that time and that energy to go back and do that formal training or do those flashcards. You know, different ways to interact with materials, different ways to learn, and beware of burnout. If you burn yourself out, You know, you're not doing anybody favors. So this is a way where if you feel like you need to keep going, you can, but give part of your brain a break and just listen to a podcast. Listen to Black Hill. Listen to Black Hills. They will talk about what's going on in the cybersecurity world. It's a fun way. You listen to old war stories from these sort of veterans, and you learn a lot, and without doing too much. Home labs. Home labs are good. I definitely encourage, if you have a bunch of old gear lying around, it can be really fun to recreate these. It is time intensive. It is gear intensive, but it's also really cool. If you really get into that, do pursue it. You can certainly put that on your resume. The last one is groups and organizations. DC 608 is one. If you're listening, if you're here, this is a really good first step. The community is really great and very welcoming. I would not have gotten my job without coming to this group, period. Last one, attend conferences. There are hacks to this. You can volunteer and get in free. Some of them are very expensive, but just get involved with the community. You will meet people. You need to use every edge that you can when you're trying to get that first job.
Got one question
Yep.
Someone who's taking certified in cyber in August and studying to take Network Plus and Security Plus. Is it worth it to take Network Plus and Security Plus as well as alongside the CC from ISC2?
I think Network Plus is never a bad one to take, especially if you're not traditionally from an IT background. Just comprehensive fundamental knowledge of networking is great. I think Security Plus and Certified in Cybersecurity I think you could do both of them. If you can afford it, it would be pretty easy to do both because the content is almost identical. I don't think you need both. I think it's a one or another scenario, but I think to sit for the test, it's a little over 100, maybe 120. Does anybody know Sec Plus CompTIA? Over 200 now. 3 for Sec? I'm sorry.
400.
400 to sit for Sec Plus. Okay, so that's a big investment.
The training alone is and the exam
Wow.
itself is over.
So we're gonna so about 400 for Security Plus, and I'm gonna be talking about ISC2 Certified in Cybersecurity, which is totally free. That will get you to the same place. I would say no, honestly. The only caveat to that is Certified in Cybersecurity, we're going to talk about this a little later, is not as well known as Security Plus. So you will run into situations where a resume says requirement Security Plus, right? We're talking about baselines of understanding. There are ways around that. There are ways to get to the auto scan. What I did was I said Certified in Cybersecurity in my resume, parentheses, I said Security Plus equivalent, right? They are doing auto scans on these. You need to get those words in there. There are also other hacks, right, where you, copy every word on the job posting and put it in white on a second page, right, to get your scan 100%. But yeah, you could do that.
It also goes with the C1 and Security Plus, as well as L1.
Okay.
Both of those are lesser known. Security Plus,
Yeah.
they're technically a step above,
Mhm.
but just qualified as well.
Yeah, there's a lot out there, and you have to understand, right? You get about 8 seconds per resume if you get past the automated scan. I'm not going to go deep into resume hacking. There's a lot of really good information online about that, but it's going to be challenging to get people to get past that scan. But there are ways to do it.
People are interested. It's easy to do a talk on
Yeah, absolutely. We could do a talk on that, different ways, because we'll get into the resume part later, but great question. Thank you, whoever online. Certs. All right, we got here. ISC2, actual free S-tier cert, free training, entry-level cybersecurity training plus certification exam. Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh man. All right. Stop.
You were a lighting guy, but is there a sound tech here as well?
Having a bunch of when we had lighting people in a room and there were sound issues, it was so funny. There's one guy who used to be a sound guy who would always have to do everything. All right, recasting. Stop. Start. All right, and now I need to represent. Technology.
Actual free.
Yep, thank you. Representing. So high tech.
Super good.
Nailed it. So, ISC2. So, we're talking about a $400 cert for Security Plus, which is sort of the benchmark for getting into the industry. Why is this free? That's a great question. The reason is they are trying to, ISC2 is the organization behind the CC, Certified in Cybersecurity. They do not have an entry-level certificate, so they are trying to get a piece of the market share. The reason that they are able to offer this is because they have a very, very well-known, very renowned cert called the CISSP. Everybody knows about it. You will see it on entry-level jobs. They will be asking for it. Ignore it. They're high. Nobody who's doing a security analyst role is going to have a CISSP. It's a super hard test to take. Yes.
Requirement for CISSP is 5 years experience in the field. So the running joke is it's always posted on entry-level jobs.
Yes.
You need a CISSP to get an entry-level job.
Yeah. And
But in order to get the entry-level job, you need 5 years experience. So good
Yeah.
luck.
And I'm going to talk a little bit about that sort of conundrum and contradiction later. But yeah, don't get discouraged when you see that. It's ridiculous. But so that's why they're able to offer this. I was super impressed. If I could tell you to do one thing as soon as we're done here, if you're excited, is go home and sign up for this. The thing that they're saying is 1 million people certified in cybersecurity. The angle that they're coming from their PR department is there's a gap in cybersecurity skills, and that's why we're giving this away for free. They will not be giving it away for free for long. It is a great platform that is built out from all of their other super expensive certs. It is the best learning that I've had online. It is made by really, really smart educators. It has flashcards, it has practice tests, and it has a free exam voucher. Literally, I spent $0 and got this. Yes.
So I know someone who works with their orders the way there.
I was actually curious, yeah, how
So,
close. Yeah,
As you're alluding to,
yeah.
if you're looking for it, do it now. Not hesitate. It will go away very soon. In the next 6 months to a year, it will not exist.
And
I want it for free. So free now.
I'm trying to remember, I believe they had a total time in the platform, and I didn't leave it open a ton. I believe my study time total was about, I did flashcards outside, but it was about 24 hours in the platform. It's not a massive amount of stuff. I did spend a lot of time going over my practice exams, but you could bang it out in a couple weekends. So if you're really, really gung-ho about it, I would say dive in, go through the training. It's a lot of videos. It's a lot of clicking. You will want to be in front of a computer. Not super mobile friendly, at least it wasn't when I did it. But the practice tests, I just drilled them over and over and over. I sat and I passed it. Yes.
You said this one, Security Plus.
Yes. So the question was, is this equivalent to Security Plus? And yes, it is.
You already had your Security Plus. Would it not be worth it to do this, or would it still be worth it?
If I already had my Security Plus and I was looking for a job, I might pick this up because what can it hurt? I don't think you would have to study at all. This is really, like, these are going to be industry competitors for, you know, for what people take to get in.
Certification have more prominent resume.
Yep.
So a lot of this overlaps. If you already have a Security Plus, your employer paid for it, whatever. This is a great way to just add your resume.
Yeah, and this is free for a limited time, super high quality because of the reasons I said before too. So, yeah.
I've been seeing on some webinars Secure Works have been posting lately that they offer 0.75 credits for an ISC 2 cert. What does that all go for?
0.7. Are you talking about continuing education credits, maybe? Yeah. Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. So, when you get, so to become a member of ISC 2, you do have to eventually pay $50. It lasts 3 years, but you can still get your cert without that. But to remain a member, to keep your cert active, you essentially have to do trainings over the 3 years. It's not difficult to do. I finished mine in 6 months. I finished my 3 years quota of training in 6 months. And for that, you get continuing education credits, and different things can count for that. Being at this meeting actually counts for continuing education credits, believe it or not.
IT summit has such a
Yeah, absolutely. Being at an IT summit, I've gotten credits for watching David Bombal videos. I've gotten credits for random webinars that I've watched from Bright Talk, right? Bright Talk actually links directly to your ISC2 account. They have hundreds of different things on there, so very easy to get, but that's what the continuing education credits are. This was an interesting one. This is one that was showed to me by one of the members of the group. It's tracking your progress in GitHub. And what I ended up doing was creating a living resume that I could put on my actual resume and show people what I was working on. And I actually have included a link in here, and I haven't really touched it since I got my job. And it's become this sort of moment in time, this sort of time capsule of everything that I did to get my job. You can see on here, you know, I was looking at what I was currently working on. These were the certificates I was looking at. I had my certified in cybersecurity. You know, you get essentially certificate IDs to prove it's legitimate. You collect them, you collect the badges like you collect Pokemon. I was working on Security Blue Team. I got AWS official training. Totally, all of this was free. I went through Simply Learn, and this is how I was padding out my resume. So that when it said, you know, what are your skills? What are your accomplishments? This is what I could put in there. And this is what I would encourage you to do as you're getting started. Online labs, there are some of the ones that I was working on: Hack the Box, Blue Team Labs, Security Blue Team, Over the Wire. I don't have to read all of them. And then trainings and certs at the bottom. So weirdly, all of the employers I talked to really, really liked this. I'm not a hiring manager. Some other people might have more insights, but I would highly recommend you create this sort of living resume. It'll kind of keep you motivated too. It's fun to update. Oh, I got this one. Oh, I got this one. It's almost like your own personal scoreboard. I do have a link right here to mine, so you can go and check out what I did. It's not super hard to do, and it'll help you also keep track of everything. So let's talk about the industry landscape. I really like the slide, like the art. Did it show up? Yep. Red team or blue team. So we talked about all the different things you can study, different paths you can take there. Let's talk a little bit about what it means to try and get into cybersecurity. So there's red team, blue team, there is purple team as well, and all sorts of teams in between, but essentially there's offensive security and there's defensive security. When you start listening to these podcasts, when you start watching these YouTube videos, they're gonna go for the sexy side, which is the red team. Being a penetration tester, being a red teamer is definitely what grabs people's attention first, I think. There's nothing wrong with that. If you're passionate about it, you should follow it. But you should also know the numbers. It's about an 80-20 split between blue team jobs and red team jobs in the industry. And the red team jobs that are there are highly sought after and hyper competitive. You will need to operate on a totally different level if you want to out of the gate get a red team job. I'm not telling you at all that you shouldn't pursue this. I just want you to understand when you're getting into it. So the
Well, the red team jobs are probably available, usually for senior roles. They're very rarely open for entry-level spots.
So what the comment was, there's very rarely entry-level red team roles. We are going to talk about entry-level positions a little bit later, but yeah, it is to break into the industry with a red team role. If you don't have a criminal record from a really, really big hack that you did, it's going to be difficult. That is a career path I actually didn't put on here, was hacking something super big, getting arrested, and then being a highly paid consultant after. I don't recommend that. No, don't do it. Bad. Good enough to do it, not good enough to get out without getting caught, right? If you love red teaming, if you're passionate about it and you want that same path, get your Sec Plus, go for Pen Test Plus, and then you need to get your OSCP. Oh my God, that always happens. The OffSec Certified Professional exam. This is a 24-hour exam where you can sleep as much as you want. It is absolutely savage. You have to hack 5 boxes, I think. There are red teamers. There are professional red teamers in our group. I would encourage you to reach out on the Discord and talk to them about it. And a lot of them have passed it. It's savage. But if you are really gung-ho about it, this should be your North Star. You want to pass this test. This is what most offensive security places in general are going to want to see to start a conversation, right? Yes.
I know TCM Academy came out with the practical network penetration tester as well. Is that also coming into fruition or sought after by some companies, or
It's still pretty.
So
Series is getting there, but the OSCP is going to be for, like you said, your gold standard, your North Star, especially because the people who put that on offensive security, the bigger caliber. So it's the same people who are literally creating the tools to do the work that you're going.
So is that a competitor to the OSCP then?
So their TCM is trying to create a good learning system and does very well. It's more along the lines of a contractor side versus a long-term red teamer. So it's going to be more how to write reports, how to do good conversations with clients and things like that. Whereas the OSCP is you're a full-term hacker for some company for doing like bleeding edge stuff. So it's just a little bit, again, not necessarily a bad route to go and a good affordable route. They're just different competitors. Same.
Yeah. So. And I think OSCP is over 1,000 to sit.
Yes. Your OSCP again is the
high.
top end of
Yeah,
it.
that's top end, but that's what you need to get in. And there's sort of this discussion. There are no true entry level positions in cybersecurity because there is so much assumed knowledge that you need to have. And just know going into the red team, don't be discouraged. It's going to take you longer. What I would say to that is that there is a ton of stuff that you can do on the blue team side with that knowledge. I have just put in a proposal to do a physical penetration test on one of the buildings that we own. I'm super geeked out about it, right? Normal red team thing. We're going to try and do it in-house. So, all of the red team stuff I learned, I leverage. Thinking like an attacker will help you be a better defender and vice versa. If you're really into red teaming, don't get too tunneled in on that. Knowing defenses is going to help you be a better pen tester in the end too. It is a marriage of both. It is the purple team, right? Red and blue. That is what you want to strive for. It's going to make you better in all aspects. All right, Captain Hindsight appeared. This is where Jake got salty when he was making the PowerPoint. For all of you that don't know, Captain Hindsight's from South Park episode. He's a superhero who comes in and does absolutely nothing but tells you what you should have done. So this is me trying to save you time for things that I wasted a bunch of my time doing. Captain Hindsight is here to tell you about entry-level position searches, right? So let's assume that we've done everything we talked about. We got our Sec Plus. We got our certified in cybersecurity. We have padded out our resume. We have run it through the resume grinder. We're pretty sure we're ready for our automated scans. What are we going to do? What job titles are we going to search for? We're going to be looking for security analyst, SOC analyst, security operations center analyst, incident responder, and pen tester. A junior role is probably going to be your best shot for red team. I don't really know. Does anybody know of anybody who's gone straight into pen test role from nothing? What did they do? What did they do for that? I'm curious.
Oh, he worked at Range doing some kind of IT stuff, and he just been doing hack the box for years.
Okay.
Took him in, so.
There you go. So hack the box, top 1% probably. Just do it over and over. So it does happen. Did you have something? Yeah, these online labs are no joke, and they will help you prepare. Yep.
So he left high school with
Leaving high school with an OSCP.
prime example of certifications do make it.
Yeah, they do. I mean,
You
that.
don't need to really, having that certification.
Yeah.
does-
And that's how I did it. I did it with a cert, right?
Yeah.
I went in without formal education and was able to sort of prove a level of understanding. So these are sort of the terms. So I wasted a lot of time applying for jobs. This is going to take a lot of time. And it's really frustrating because you don't want to be spending time banging out, job resumes. You want to be spending time learning, especially when you've got momentum going. This is really frustrating part for me. And so this is why Captain Hindsight's here. I want to tell you to focus your search, understand. There are books, there are articles online that will explain this. You know, I spent a lot of time looking at security engineer roles, which are more of a middle level security manager. Obviously, you're managing other people, but everybody's going to have different terminology. But if you search these terms, you're going to have a higher chance of getting callbacks. Where do we search? LinkedIn and Indeed are going to be the main ones. There are cybersecurity focused job sites as well. I didn't have any luck there, but that doesn't mean other people don't. There's a lot of redundancies as well, right? Company's probably going to post on most of them. Leverage headhunters. If you know any, if you hear of any, their job is to find people's jobs. And so that's good. Yes. So yes, that's a great point. In our Discord, we have headhunters. I actually worked through a couple. I had a couple phone calls with them. Unfortunately, all of the jobs that they called me about came after I'd gotten mine, but they are out there looking and they will help. They're generally nice people and they get paid when they get you a job. So it's a win-win, right? Look for state, federal jobs locally. You would be surprised who they will take. I probably could have snuck in at this place and I was like, nah, I won't do that. And I had a friend and they were like, dude, you should have applied for that cybersecurity role. It's an IT person who knows nothing about cybersecurity, just got hired, right? So, you know, not bashing state and federal government at all, but look at those websites. Echo, you're awesome.
Sorry, another recommendation is Handshake. Recommending for students.
Oh, Handshake. Okay, I haven't heard that one. I've been out of school for a long time, but yeah, look at job postings, state and federal level. Those usually don't show up all the time on Indeed as well. And it's also something local too. So that's a whole nother thing, is remote versus local. You will have an advantage if you can go to those jobs that need to be in person, right? That is an advantage for you. So look at what's going on locally.
USA jobs.
USA jobs?
Government jobs.
Awesome. USA jobs for government jobs. Yeah. Great pensions. Like, look at those. I wish I would have looked at that sooner. I really wish I would have applied for that security analyst role earlier. Might have worked out different. But. And then the last question is, how far will you go for the first job? You know, the gentleman I talked to, the success story from the boot camps, he's a part of this group. He's not here tonight. He had no IT background, went into a boot camp and started applying. And before he got the job, he has now digital forensics. He got offered a SOC position, security operations center, usually the first tier, third shift. It's brutal, right? But he was going to do it to break in. I took a job in Brookfield. It's an hour drive. Luckily, it's hybrid. So I agreed to 2 days a week. It's now down to 1, but I drive 2 hours every day. And in my mind, I'm like, I would do this 3 days a week. I could drive here 3 days a week and make it work to get this first job. It is so important to get that first job and hang on for a year or two. So if you get the opportunity, you know, be real with yourself, right? But understand you may have to go a little bit above and beyond. And if you see that opportunity, take it. Even a year can be a big difference maker, just having that experience. You know, it goes back to that thing. Everybody wants 3 to 5 years experience for an entry-level role. Well, how do you get an entry-level role if you don't have 3 to 5 years experience? Yeah, you just get your CISSP somehow.
Fun fact is, you can take the CISSP at any time. Caveat is, you won't officially be certified until you have that 5 years experience. So you can pass it. They will give you the voucher saying, yes, you're an ISC2 affiliate, associate, thank you. An ISC2 associate, but you won't be officially CISSP certified until you hit the threshold of 5 years.
Or you just get somebody that vouches that you had 5 years.
Yes.
That's a big problem.
That's the other part. You also have to somebody vouch for you that you are
But if you don't have
CISSP
the 5
material.
years and you have somebody vouching for you, you have 5 years, ISC squared will still accept that. And then when you try to complain to ISC squared that you have somebody that's violating their code of ethics, ISC squared doesn't care because they're getting money.
It's the certification.
For those online, yeah, you need experience to get a job that requires experience, and it's an entry-level job. So, yeah, and we're going to talk about that a little bit right now. Captain Hindsight's back, which means Jake got salty when he was writing this. Headlines versus reality. So for those online, I'm holding the Cap Times, which is a local publication. can't hack it. With cyber attacks on the rise, companies are scrambling to find the computer security pros they need. And as you can tell from my tone, I have a point to make. If I can find the page, should have bookmarked that. Boy, do I look silly. This is why nobody reads printed text anymore, and I'm here. And I'm here. I'm actually holding a real piece of paper for those online. So I'm going to read a little headline from this local magazine. This is from mid-May, so it's pretty recent. Estimates of just how many workers are needed vary wildly. According to the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics, the specific role of information security analyst is in the 5th fastest growing job category in the country. It will grow nearly a third in the next 10 years. 53,000 more analysts will be expected to join. And it's estimated that across the globe, there are 750,000 unfulfilled jobs in the US, 750,000 in the US and 3.5 million worldwide. So when you hear things like that, and a lot of people will be telling you things like that, there is a gap in cybersecurity. We need more people. Get into this boot camp. You will get out. People will be begging you to work for them. They will
With
not.
5 years of experience.
Yeah.
They will not. And there's one more slide where I'm gonna pick us back up at the end, but this is the part that this is why Captain Hindsight's here. People are trying to sell you that you're gonna walk out of here and people are going to be trying to flag you down to get you to work there. A lot of the gap in the job market is in the middle section, unfortunately. The other problem that I found out throughout the years is that there aren't formal paths to get people into cybersecurity through an organization. The security analyst junior role doesn't really exist in a formal setting. Security analyst junior role would probably be a network engineer or an infrastructure or in IT operations, working on security concepts in a different part of IT. And if you're interested in IT and you really want to move jobs, I would strongly suggest you look there. If you get these skills, get your Net Plus, try and get that second tier IT or even help desk if you can. But that is sort of the only feeder system that we have, which is the other problem. And it was really frustrating to me to hear that, even though I didn't end up doing the boot camp. Are you excited for all the money you're going to make when you get out of here? There are people who are getting out of their computer science degree that are also having trouble finding work. And you will find it. Don't get me wrong. But just understand it is going to be hard. That first job, no matter what path you take, is going to be difficult. We talked about the entry-level positions, asking for 3 to 5 years worth of experience. Applications per job. This is another part that really got me down. I actually went on LinkedIn recently to check, and they have now taken down being able to see how many people exactly have applied to jobs. They now do over 100 because it was so daunting to see a security analyst role or a SOC 1 role. And I would put in my resume after I'd done everything we talked about, 500, 600, 700 resumes in 2 days, right? That's where it starts to get a little daunting. But that's why you also need to understand how resume scanning works, right? How do you get in front of somebody in HR? And you also need to understand it is a numbers game. I was talking to my sister who works, she's high level in HR, and she said it's not just unique to cybersecurity as well. If it makes you feel any better, every job is facing the same thing. It's so easy to apply. In LinkedIn, you can literally one-click apply right now. With a single button, keeping your LinkedIn updated and having a resume loaded, that's all it takes. So of course you're going to have 500 people applying in 3 hours, right? Doesn't require any effort. But there are some that do, right? You will need to upload resumes. What I recommend doing is, get a resume for a security analyst, get a resume that says SOC analyst, get a resume that says junior pen tester, have those in the hopper, and then adjust as needed. But I went from these sort of base templates, and it saved me a lot of time in the job hunting section, which was the most painful.
How do you, once you get past like the resume scan, or how do you get past that first interview? That field.
So the question is, if you get past the sort of scan and you get to your first interview, how do you get past that? That's a tricky one. There some of them have technical interviews. You need to sell yourself just like any other interview. Not only show your technical skills, and they'll ask you various questions, but you also need to present properly. Security is not they want adults in security. I'm dressed, for those at home, I've got my Aftershock arcade Dickies and my Chucks on. You can bet when I applied at the credit union that I was working at, I had my button up on, my hair was nice, right? Present as well as you can, right? Even if you're into the really crunchy hacker stuff, that's not what they want to see. They want to see a business professional. You need to be sharp. You need to be able to communicate clearly. So much of this is communication. I didn't have my notes just because we had technical difficulties, but going back, ancillary skills are really big. Do you have project management experience? I am probably more of a project manager than anything else. I do analysis on problems, and then I manage people to fix those problems. Do you have technical documentation skills or writing skills? That's a huge thing that you can put forward to talk about. Do you have a nice, smile? I don't know. I ran out of things, and I thought I had one more. But think about those other skills that you have. Bring that into the interview to sell yourself. Go ahead, Chris.
So to hit on that as well, PC 608 doesn't technically offer, but we have done mock interviews. So if you are wanting to do a trial interview leading up to a potential real interview, you're happy to run through and do that with the guys as well. So if you're interested, you can reach out to one of the board members or whatever and say, hey, I got an interview coming up this next week. When are you guys available? We will do a mock interview. We will run through the steps. And we kind of try to tailor it towards the job you're going for. So again, as he hinted, there's other jobs out there. So junior pen tester versus SOC analyst versus security engineer versus manager. We will tailor some of the questions towards you, ask the questions that'll make it a little bit more specific for that job role. So if that's something you're interested in, you can reach out.
So just really quick, I'll get you in a sec. Just for the people online, join the DC608 Discord. So I've been in the industry for a year. We have people who are industry leaders in our midst as well. People who have been here for 25 years. We do mock interviews. We have pen testers. We have CISOs. So we have every different sort of aspect you could want in a mock interview from our members. So do join up, join the community, and we can help you out.
And one thing to your list of stuff to take in the interview.
Yes.
Or to put on your resume to demonstrate that you're engaging outside of the professional setting.
Absolutely.
Show like those computers at home. Show that you have a home lab. Show that you're part of a group like this. That shows really well.
Yeah. So for the
social capability outside sitting in front of the screen.
Yeah. So for the people online, the comment was, show everything else you're doing outside of just cybersecurity, out of just your studies or what you're currently doing, and look back at all of those things that I put in that slide. What are you not engaged in, right? Are you a part of a community? Are you doing online labs? Are you doing, podcasts? Just more things. Just having things to talk about. I remember I was talking about Sandworm, right? In one of my interviews, right? I was talking about Darknet Diaries, and one of the people in my interview knew about it. We were talking about an episode. Simply being engaged in all of these things is going to naturally lead to you being excited. It's going to lead to you having more to talk about, and people will pick up on that. If you really are passionate about this and you're putting your free time into it. So I did 2 interviews at the place where I'm working right now. I lost out on the first one to somebody with a computer science degree and experience in cybersecurity. And the second interview, a role opened up, and they came back and they said, you were the first person we talked to, but what really solidified it was the work that you had done since we talked, right? I told them about everything that I had done. I was actually interviewing with them while I was studying for my certified in cybersecurity, and I had gotten it in the meantime. I had continued to be involved in organizations. I had continued to do X, Y, Z. So stay hungry, keep doing all of the things we were talking about before, and you will land that first role.
Real quick, so I was in previous life, I was in IT staffing for 10 years. I'll give you the quick one for folks who are interviewing, especially the downfalls. If you don't show up with a pen and a notebook, I'm gonna throw you out a window. That's screwed up so many interviews because they go, "You're not prepared for anything. You're not going to take any of this. You don't have any copies of your resume. You cannot explain your previous experience or roles, whether it involves teams, projects, challenges you faced, successes you've had, failures, why you had those failures, what you learned, and then also, as you said before, showcase how you like to learn and expand your knowledge in your free time. If you hit on those, you're probably going to be in a spot. If you don't do those little things, if you don't show up with a button up or make sure you don't have a hole in your pants, things like that, that's where you're going to run into that first interview challenge. Having gone through, I think I placed in 10 years, 1,500 people across the US. If you check those little boxes there, you're going to be in a really good spot to succeed.
And for the folks online, basically, you know, you got to do the basics right? We're looking for adults in this field. You are protecting really sensitive, really critical information. You are the line between, well, one of the lines between this business making the papers, which is bad. So, you know, wear your button up, don't have holes in your pants, have a pen and paper, have a copy of your resume. You know, you need to present professionally. I don't care if you're a lead hacker, you're going to be working at a fucking bank, and you better look like it during the interview. And then you dial it back a little bit once you're in there, right? But yeah, you definitely, the communication is so key. I can't stress this enough too. You need to communicate in most positions, I'll say, very well with other teams, with IT. I act as a consultant. I am not allowed to touch a lot of stuff myself. I have to politely point and ask people to adjust that, right? And so being able to communicate is really, really key, and don't discount that if that is a skill of yours. Lastly, there are a lot of people trying to capitalize on the buzz. So going back to what I said about some of the financially motivated boot camps and stuff, just because it's a price tag doesn't mean it's worth it. I'm just saying, do your research, come at it knowing that people are, you know, understand where somebody's coming from. If somebody is showing you a video with an affiliate link, well, maybe that's why they're pushing that product, right? Just understand where somebody's coming from when you're consuming content from them or being offered something from them. So this is the last section, networking. So I have one of the books here. I brought some of the books that I had when I started, and there's one I have, Cybersecurity Career Master Plan. I think that was the first one that I bought. I got to the section on networking, and we're not talking about subnets networking. We're talking about people networking. And I very vividly remember saying, that's so dumb, I don't need to do that. I'm going to do everything online. I'm going to get all of these certs, and it's going to be super sweet, and it's going to work. And I could not have been more wrong. You need to meet people. And I know this is difficult for some people too. The better you are with computers, sometimes the worse you are with people. There's a correlation sometimes, but it is a really welcoming industry full of professional nerds. Find people in your area. People will hire people they know more often than not. If there are, think about that security analyst role. If there are 500 people who all have their Sec Plus and the manager in town knows you, who do you think they're going to give a shout to? You, right? So you need to take every edge you can when you're looking for work and looking locally, or in my case, beyond locally. I'm driving to Brookfield for my job, and I'm grateful for it, right? Like that's sometimes what you have to do. There are many facets of cybersecurity. When you get involved in these communities, you may find stuff that you never even knew existed. I've gotten really into OSINT recently, which was not even on my radar before. It's just led me down this different rabbit hole, and it all links together and makes me even better at my job. It keeps that passion going. So it will help you sort of further your breadth of knowledge. It is a massive field with so much depth as well. You can be a specialist in Macs, you know, take whatever you're passionate in and see if you can find a path with that, because it's going to make you unique as well. You know, if you really like Macs, there aren't a lot of people that do security for Macs, right? Like that could be your in. If you come from another industry, like the financial industry, if you know a lot about banking transactions, you have insight that other people don't that are security analysts for banks, right? Leverage what you have, find a way to drive that into your passion for cybersecurity as well. And then in the end, sort of decide what you're willing to do as well. Set out, you know, you need to have the support. If you have, you know, I had a buddy who
was doing software sales, and I talked to him, and he's like, you know, I got 3 kids, I can't make the meetings, and so I sent him some stuff. I'm like, you can try this. Everybody's situation is different, so understand what you can do, understand what you're willing to do, and pursue it if you're passionate about it.
I was going to hop on for like the making connections. Like the thing I was told recently by an HR pro that really resounded is that it's not just making connections, but you make connections with somebody that is going somewhere and is going to take you with them. Because like even to your point where you say, you know, you had Security Plus, you knew this manager that had the role open up. That's the important connection. Sitting around in industry professionals with fellow Security Plus people that are all looking for jobs, that's networking, that's great, but none of them are going to provide that opening for going. I've been part of a lot of different professional organizations where you have that feel. You go to their meetings month after month, you shake hands, you drink beers together, doing all that, but nobody has those openings. Nobody's really, progressing and taking long. But once I started seeing others and myself connecting with people that are going places and are going to take you with them, then the whole world will open up. So I think that's a little twist here. Keep an eye on.
I think that's a really good point. And basically, to summarize what Alex said, I'll try to, is make meaningful connections. You know, one of the things that I ran into that I really hated, I really dislike social media. I just don't like using it. It irks me. I've recently gone back to it to learn about all the different ways you can extract information from a professional standpoint. But there are so many people, at least when I was studying, that are like, make 1,000 connections on LinkedIn. It's like, why? Right? How is that a meaningful connection to spend all of your time liking people's posts on LinkedIn? Do you think that's going, oh, 10,000 people liked this post and you're one of them, so now you're going to be in for a job? Make meaningful connections and watch the amount of time you spend on LinkedIn, because people love LinkedIn. Keep it up to date, apply for jobs through there, but don't get too caught up. There are people who are just trying to make a living off of posting there, just like anything else, influencers in a way. Make meaningful connections with the people around you. Look to people who are willing to mentor. There's a lot of great people in this industry. I got mentors in this group who are willing to help. Reach out, even if it's difficult for you. I guarantee it's going to be the difference between getting a job right now versus later. So that's all I have. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate it. All right, I'm hanging up. I'm just